You know my radical point of view from automotive perspective. An automotive perspective, I think this GDPR is the wrong place to apply these data, because when I give out data from my car, I get a lot of benefit. I get traffic information. I get that makes my life easier. So why would I what data will I not be able to give out? Yeah, please.
So I tend to disagree, because first off, it's not about it's convenient. It's simply law. I have to work a lot with GDPR for work as well. I'm kind of annoyed by developers telling me that they don't want to care. It's law. It's illegal not doing it. Regardless of that, especially the right to be forgotten. For example, when going to the dealership, because I know companies who have to flush all of their error stores, all of their GPS tracking, everything. So they have to attach to the cars and flush everything before they go to a dealership. And if the car is broken, they can throw it away because they can't flush it anymore. And so if you're asking about what do you want to do as a driver, delete data before going to dealerships. That can, of course, be something that's hard for insurances, for example. But on the other hand, there is information that should not or mustn't be leaked during these dealerships. And dealerships are not very famous for treating data under GDPR.
So kind of a reset button that brings the car back to...
the drop-down list, just like, basically like a browser. What do you want to flush? GPS coordinates? Yeah, flush it. Why does my dealership need to know that?
Yeah. I like this kind of drop-down list.
To me, the most important thing is transparency, so that I know what is happening.
Yeah.
And of course, this just shows another set of questions, because how to make it transparent, how to make it understandable, and so on. But to me, the solution or a key for privacy is having transparency. So to be informed what happens with my data. And once I know that, then I can do other things.
And to add to your remark, I totally agree that a law is a law. You have to comply to that. That's one argument that's undeniable. But at the same time, the law has to make sense. When it comes to automotive, the example that you gave, I fully agree with you. There are areas where you have tons of sensor data, tons of data that will tell you the quality of the street, the quality of the driving, and these are the data that can unlock potential innovation. And my fear is due to GDPR, because GDPR is very broad about personal data and personally identifiable data. Pretty much everything, even the gasoline level of your car, can be categorized as personal data. Personally identifiable data is a little bit shrinked, that where you can triangulate a person, but everything can relate to personal data. And if you my fear is, because of this legislation, we don't slow down the industry, because we are at the dawn of an era that will have massive innovation, big data innovation. That was the point.
Currently,
Yes.
I try to convince Continental. Why not taking this as a marketing argument? Being the first one making that claim. Hey, we are supporting GDPR. We are privacy compliant. 2023. Bam. Just as a kind of a vision, as a goal. And then we see what happens. I think, and also, I also try to, I know those arguments, but I try to sell it like, we are not the party breakers. So all these kind of services, I also like. I will also enjoy in the future, but there are some kind of limitations needed. And if it's only that, okay, I give my data, but for this specific purpose, only for that service.
But it's a question to you. You are since you worked a lot with GDPR. I think, this is my personal opinion, it would not be possible to apply GDPR without customizing for the automotive industry. Or do you see? This will really have to customize application. It's a very general law. And automotive industry is a very, very special industry. So what's your take on that? It's a question to both of you, maybe.
First I would like to try to apply it and to understand the implications. And at one point, and this is of course also with the security implications, I also say, if you try to make your car 100% cyber secure, it will not run any longer. It will not drive any longer. Because, pressing the engine button and then waiting until some kind of certificate for the secure boot process will be validated in a backend. No way. Yeah, you press the button and the engine starts. Of course, these kinds of experiences you will also enjoy in the future. So we need to find some kind of balance. And this is all what it's all about. It's just like if you don't have GDPR, it's completely unbalanced, because the data is just gone and used for everything.
So the example that you give, I'm fully with them. I mean, if you have a breach, protecting a breach is one thing. And if you categorize data that you are not able to collect for innovation is another.
Yeah, I mean, protection for a breach is already a security question.
Yeah.
So
the data privacy security is interrelated. There's no way you can segregate them.
If the data is gone, you certainly had some kind of security problem.
Please.
I don't really know if I fully got your question, but regarding how to apply GDPR to the automotive industry, what I also see is that exactly this back-end process, because I also heard from like BMW who's complaining that they have massive problems with IT security for their cars simply by the amount of requests that they get from cars. These cloud solutions that you also mentioned, they are standard web applications. And there is no excuse for not doing cybersecurity there. And there are ways how you can bake GDPR into architecture. That is actually something for computer science students as well to learn, baking security and privacy into data structures and into design principles. So for example, predictive maintenance, assuming that you pass a car ID and a what do I know? Some metadata that would indicate a motor damage in near future. If you pass that to the backend, why do you always need the same ID? You can simply swap IDs between messages, because theoretically the indicators that will indicate that a motor damage will happen, they will be visible in one snapshot of the data, and you don't have to know what other data was in history. That is what other companies, automotive systems that do predictive maintenance also can do. And we also already have predictive maintenance, for example, in trains.
And there's also like looking people like data scarcity, so that it stays scarce with the data as much as possible.
So that is, I agree, it is something where you have to highly customize the application, definitely. And that is also, again, something for the automotive. As you said, it takes 3 years for development. You have to bake it into the architecture, and that says it's not only a matter of 5 years, it's a matter of 6 to 10 years development, fully agree. But it should be possible.
And I give you an example what happens if you don't have these limitations or these kind of mindset. And maybe you remember the first realization or implementations of the e-call, or the emergency call, supposed to help you in an accident. Yeah, you cannot, maybe you're kind of already unconscious and you cannot call the emergencies by yourself. And the car just sends an emergency call. Oh, well, super service, I like it. But the first implementations was like, okay, you need a GPS coordinate for providing that service. So what happened is there were implementations sending GPS coordinates periodically, every minute. But why? I mean, I'm driving now 30 years, no accidents. And if I imagine that the last 30 years, there's some kind of back-end service collecting my GPS data, just for the sake of what? A complete profile, wherever I was, how long I've been there. No. Oh, this is by far, this is crazy. No? Why not sending the GPS coordinate when an accident occurred? Okay, if of course the e-call device is also damaged, okay, bad luck. But balance.
Well, I agree, and allow me to be provoking here. I understand this is a problem, but is that a problem for automotive industry? Even if you don't use a car, wherever you go, it's tracked because you carry this little device.
Oh. For me, it's just the question of having the choice.
Right. Agreed.
And that's it.
Can we answer one short question from our online viewer?
Yes, please.
As long as it's not my boss, yes.
I'll just read it for you. He asked,
nowadays, autonomous smart vehicles can generate an unprecedented amount of data and must be stored and sold. an autonomous vehicle can generate as much as 1 gigabyte of data per second, and all of it will be put to use by somebody. Car manufacturers will make great profit by selling this vehicle-derived data than from selling the vehicles themselves. My question is, that data must be secured, and can the blockchain be used as a storage and transfer system for vehicle-derived data? And how can it be used to make sure that consenting users knows who's accessing and using their data? Which all companies working in this front, I'm sorry, that's what's written
Don't
here.
worry, after the blockchain stuff, I was out.
Okay.
Okay, so can you
Thank
tell
you.
us the name of the person?
Anonymous, of course.
Akram Pandey.
Akram Pandey, very good question. The first part is really interesting that what he's saying is there will be enormous amount of data from the automotive industry that we will be actually gathering in the back end. Right now, the challenge of the industry is the industry doesn't even know how to send it in the back end, because let me give you an example. An ECU will be generating sensor data several thousand instances in several microseconds. So there is the infrastructure, the current infrastructure doesn't even support it. And the question is when you will be able to send it, how to secure the data. This was his first question, and then obviously the blockchain part, if blockchain is a viable solution to that or not. So Mario.
Yes. What I may add here is, I think we have a little time until all these kinds of surveillance, profiling, lots of control scenarios will become more realistic. We are just, let's say, we do predictions, what we think what will happen in 5-6 years if we just continue like we do currently. And of course, today we have limitations like that. It starts in the car. We don't have the storage there. And every time I go to my business units and say, oh, well, I think we need, also for updates, we need a double bank, also for those testing things, we need some kind of more processing power. What does it cost? €1 more? Are you crazy? So there's a huge budget and cost pressure.
This is all
and this gives us just a little time. So as soon as we have cheaper storage, cheaper processing power, of course, we will have all these scenarios that we discuss here. So it definitely makes sense to go into those studies. So if you are computer science or electrical engineering, automotive, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm fully with GDPR on everything when it comes to data protection, securing the data. When the limitation goes to collecting the data, my fear is that might stop innovation that we need.
But this is a valid point. I mean, you cannot. So, on the one hand, you want to protect the people. On the other hand, you say like, okay, innovation over everything. And GDPR is not about innovation; it's about protecting people. And so it's like this is the economy wild west, and this is the well-being of the people now and in the future.
I agree. I mean, this is two sides of the coin. I mean, innovation does not necessarily, do harm to people. It may, but not necessarily.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, the way you present it, it's like the GDPR is fully stopping the innovation, the way it's currently getting implemented. And your point was also you have to anonymize data, and your point was like it's not getting collected at the moment. So in the talk in the last session, in the last meetup, I told something about like, okay, data in Facebook, for instance, was getting stored for many years, and now we have machine learning, so we can crawl it and we can do something with it. Which brings another dimension, because if we can store something now, it might be bad in the future for my personalization of the data, like the fuel level or this walking example that I said at the beginning. So it might be a feature where we don't see now how we can identify us with this feature. But having then this machine learning, for instance, could be that you just throw it on it and then you don't know how it does it, but then the fuel level is exactly matchable to me because I'm just getting gas at this at that time. And this makes it even more complicated, coming back to you, saying like, okay, so if we would want to protect everything that might happen in the future, then we'll definitely stop innovation, because then we cannot do anything anymore. It's like you said, the car will not drive anymore.
With absolute...
So
for the interest of time...
Yeah, and this is not what I want.
Yeah.
What I want is just to be asked. I would like to be in the driver's seat
Fully with you.
for my data.
100% with you.
And as soon as I do my consent, and transparency, user consent,
Transparency.
okay, use this data for what
Yeah.
this and that purpose, I'm fine.
Transparency
not-
is fully 100% with you.
But it's not feasible because then it's like with your traffic light example. You have too many cases and they are too complicated for the people. And no.
Yeah, these are the practical questions.
These are the practical questions. So now,
Sure,
and
sure.
for the interest of time, how about take one question or one remark and go to the break?
Hey, I have some more slides.
You have some more slides. I thought we were in the Q&A. Pardon me for that. So, yeah.
I think
so,
2 or 3 more slides.
We take this one and then we'll hand it over.
One remark or maybe an idea to govern the reason behind certain access or collection of data. So there were some points in some of the lists of standards, like reasoning why you collect specific data. Yeah. So if you consider a little removed from automotive for a minute, mobile devices. So there are many apps out there have certain reasons for collecting this and that, and then but there's nowhere a guarantee that collect data for that purpose is not used for any other purpose. So there's no way of accessing this information or controlling it. So I think user interaction, maybe it can be a post-purchase kind of configuration type of interaction, not to avoid asking on each traffic light. So this kind could be a way to let users set certain things. But I think the key is then to ongoing guaranteeing of certain reasons are not reused for other purposes. How should you? I think this must be part of the internal certification of OEMs in their bringing up their product. Maybe or their cycles repeated. And regarding really, if we should think for a minute regarding only privacy, there's of course enough reasoning for the letting innovation go on. For the privacy part, for instance, sensor data. Why should all radar data real time must be pumped up to the cloud from all vehicles? So it's not feasible to process them anyway. So and a solution to this might be to let drivers who are willing to contribute to science or innovation say, okay, let me send you my data, so you have a reasonable, smaller set of data you can process and still innovate on it. And let others choose to be free of that. Might be.
Great.
Right. In this sense, I think the industry is currently just at the beginning. In this sense, I would even differentiate between, let's call them good guys and bad guys. So currently I try to take care of the good guys who would like to be compliant. So we have, of course, other issues like potential misuse once the data is gone to some backend. And there are, of course, I would even say this is by default. You can say that all the apps that you download for free, you pay with your data. And it will, of course, it will be sold in the backend to third parties, of course. That's the business case.
I mean, you always end up paying. You either pay with money, or you pay with data, or you pay with attention, eyeball. You always end up paying in one way or the other.
Yeah. And if I would pay for Facebook if I could, but this service does not exist. So I'm not at Facebook. I had the choice. Okay, my social life is of course pretty poor, but this is the price I have to pay.
In this podcast show, we bring in the industry leaders and experts in the automotive domain to share their experiences along their journey. The mission of our podcast is to start a dialogue that will allow us to understand the development of automotive industry and where the automotive industry is going. You can ask questions to our guests directly. Just send us an email to podcast@matrix.de. We'll schedule a call with you during the recording and you'll be part of our show. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any new episodes. Please share this video to help others get enlightened as well, and that would mean a great deal to us. See you in the next episode.